Good morning, wrestling fans. Boy, do we have a show for you this morning. I'm joined by Eric Knopsnyder, who's down in Hershey right now, and Dysen Gould. We have a lot of things to unpack in this early session between the 106 and 138-pound quarterfinals and semifinals. We're going to start right now at 106. Right out of the gate, we had a returning state medalist, number one in the state, undefeated. Carson Wagner of Northampton gets beaten by Cale Nasdio of Williamsport, beats him 3-1. He really looked like he was in control of that match the whole time, Eric. I was, and really, to jump ahead, he looked phenomenal in the semifinals. I tweeted out, I don't know what he ate, but whatever he did eat, he should eat that every time he wrestles because, my God, he looked amazing. Talk about that first quarterfinal match with Wagner and then, of course, the semifinal match against Flat.
Well, yeah, it really got us going early. I mean, it set the tone for that round. Whenever we get that match happening right away, Nasdio takes out the number one guy, and just a phenomenal performance by him. He said the whole time he was confident going into that. He had beaten Wagner in the preseason, and, he felt going into it, even as a fourth-place finisher, that he was in a perfect spot for him, and that proved to be true.
Yeah, and in fact, he and Dominic Flat, who he beat in the semifinals, Nasdio lost to him in the West Super Region 6-1 just a week ago, right? So that's pretty impressive that he turned around a performance from a 6-1 decision to a 12-0 major decision. I mean, he was just on him. He turned him in the first period. He took him down and just smothered him from the top position. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, Nasdio looked fantastic on top, and you're right. I mean, it wasn't close. Obviously, 12-0. I mean, just a fantastic turnaround for Cale Nasdio.
So on the bottom half, so Wagner loses Nasdio, Flat beats Burke, then Suriani loses to Caden Williams, who beats him 5-3. Tyler Chappell survives against Josh Janzowitz of Stroudsburg. He beats him 6-1. But the other big match on that bottom half was Caden Williams versus Tyler Chappell. Now, these two did wrestle last week in the West Super Region. Again, this is a reversal of fortunes here because Chappell beat him 2-1 last week in the Super Region. This time around, it goes to tiebreaker 2, and Caden Williams comes out as the champion 2-1 in tiebreaker. Eric, this one we knew it was going to be tight. We knew it was going to be close, but it just seemed like, Williams was just able to, leech on and hold on to positions and really just kind of frustrate Chappell to the point where he was able to ride him out.
Well, and this one may really have been something that he ate or didn't eat, maybe as the case may be, because when I talked to Caden Williams, I said, what was the difference between this week and last week? He said, last week I felt awful. He said, I was fine when I weighed in, but by the time I wrestled, I just did not feel well. He said, I don't know if it was something I ate or what, but, just wasn't feeling 100% last week. This week he did, and he said he was really confident from the top position that whenever he could get on top there and Chappell would try to reach back, that he could not only keep him stay in control, but put Chappell in danger. And that's something he did. I thought there were a couple times that he might have actually been close to back points. But, Caden Williams able to get the ride out there, able to get the win, and a huge match for him.
Yeah, and this finals is going to be a rematch again from last weekend because last weekend in the third and fourth place match of the West Super Region, it was Caden Williams who got the 2-1 win over Cale Nasdio. So you look at how deep the West was, and we're going to talk about it throughout the show here, but the West was just dominant in the early quarterfinals and semifinal rounds here. But this is going to be a rematch. Again, I'm not really thinking about last week because Cale Nasdio is showing that last weekend didn't really matter because he's coming out and just destroying guys that he had lost to before. Dysen, I know you've wrestled with Nasdio before from Williamsport. I know you know these 106-pounders pretty well. What were your thoughts watching Nasdio just really, not only turn around his result from last weekend, but just dominate the performance against Dom Flat and also against Carson Wagner?
Yeah, like you said, that was just a complete domination there against Flat. Get on top and getting a couple sets of back points and a couple takedowns and just rode him out the whole third period, I believe. Then that Wagner match was another a good match there too. He was able to get to his offense with his high crotch and able to get a couple finishes for takedowns and come out on top of that one. And then down the bottom, Williams Chapel match. That one was a real tight one going to tiebreakers. Um, and Williams was just able to hang on top and put on a tough ride to be able to take out Chapel and reach the finals.
Yeah,
Thought there was a bunch of good matches there.
there was a lot of good matches there. There was a tough ride, and both Chapel and Williams are both notoriously good riders, but that really showed in that semifinal match. Let's go up to 113 pounds, where the big news, Eric, you kind of broke it to us a little bit earlier this morning, that the number 1 ranked wrestler in the state, undefeated freshman from Manheim Township, Camden Williams, twin brother of Caden, missed weight at 113 pounds, was 0.3 over on the scale. He is unable to compete. Eric, what do you have for us on that?
I talked to Caden a little bit about it. Obviously it's kind of a sensitive subject. Anytime a guy doesn't make weight, something like that happens. It's a tough situation when you're potentially a state champion and you don't make weight. I mean, it's a heartbreaking scenario. Both of those guys actually were really close. From what I understand, Caden also almost didn't make weight. I heard that he had to go to the last scale and it was kind of flickering there, that it was tight. And he said, I asked him about it. He said, I just didn't lose as much overnight as I expected to. Usually you can float a pound or more depending on how big you are, things like that. But he said it just didn't come off overnight, and so just a really tough situation there. And that takes out the guy that we really wanted to see how he was going to perform here in this weight class.
Yeah, I mean, before the first even whistle started, we were, that was disappointing, because we were expecting Camden Williams, to be in the mix there to win his first state championship, especially after last weekend. But let's look at the wrestlers who did compete on the top half. This was one quarterfinal I had circled to watch, and that was Zach Jackaruso from Delaware Valley against Troy Homan of Penn Trafford. Jackaruso did not make it to the state tournament last year. Homan was a state qualifier. He's a junior. Jackaruso, he was in that match, but he had to take injury time a couple times. He ends up getting the takedown to win it, 6-3 over Homan. But he seemed to be, he didn't seem to be himself, right? He ends up getting that win. Kilkerry beats freshman Mason Ziegler from Quakertown 6-3. Charlie Bunting falls to Jacob Van Dee, a returning state runner-up from Erie Cathedral Prep. He loses to him 2-0. And Cale McIntyre of Becca gets that forfeit because of Camden Williams. So in the semifinals, Jackaruso, Kilkerry. This is the talk of the tournament thus far. Jackaruso, again, first time at the state tournament, first time medaling. He wins 3-2 over Vinny Kilkerry. Now, all the talk is Kilkerry was pushing the pace, was unable to get a stall call to tie the match 3-3. Eric, you saw that match. I mean, clearly Kilkerry was pushing the pace, but Jackaruso got the only takedown of the match. Jackaruso was the one who got the takedown, was able to ride him out at the end of the second period to avoid having that other escape point. Whether hate it or love it, I mean, he was the one who got the takedown to win it, right?
Yeah, that's the difference, obviously, to make a really obvious point. The takedown is the difference in that match. Now, you can argue whether or not Kilkerry deserved to get another stalling point there. I thought he might get one, but, give credit to Zach Jackaruso. He took a shot there, I think, with about 7 seconds left, because I think I actually texted you guys with 14 left. I was like, hey, I think, Kilkerry keeps pushing this. He's probably going to get that stalling call, tie the match up. But Jackaruso was smart enough to know, hey, if I get one shot off, that'll save me a stalling call. It's hard to call a guy for stalling whenever you take that shot. He did. He's able to fight it off and get the victory. Yeah, controversial or not, I mean, Zach Jackaruso is your state finalist at 113 pounds.
Yeah, and it's, again, you can't leave it in the ref's hands, right? You can't just you got to find a way to get a takedown, right? Vinny Kilkerry knew what the score was going into the third period. You let him up. You got to get a takedown. You got to find a way to get a shot off, and you have to find a way not only instead of focusing on, hey, let me just push him around the mat to get another stall call. You can't control that ref putting up his fist, right? And you have to be able to control getting a takedown. I know a lot of talk, and I heard Brock Height from Flow talking about it on the air, was a lot of people are saying, well, the refs aren't calling stalling enough in this, this tournament. Dysen, you saw that match. What were your thoughts with Vinny Kilcarry falling to Jack Russo in that 3-2 match?
Yeah, definitely, like you guys said, he was definitely pushing the pace. Probably could have gotten a stall call, but I think that Jack Russo's shot right at the end was definitely key and burned some time for him hanging on there in the leg. But I think you can't leave it into the ref's hands, and Kilcary's got to find a way to get to his offense and get a takedown there.
Yeah, you're right, and I know I heard on Twitter some complaining. Jack Russo was adjusting his headgear and his mask and things like that, and again, you can say whatever you want, but I even heard the Delaware Valley coaches say on the air after he was walking off was, "Hey, good job, you got the takedown, you got the win." So like, he did. You don't. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's not always pretty at the state tournament. You got to find ways to win, right, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nobody asks you how you won.
Right.
You go in there and you get there. I mean, that's all that's going to matter is he's going to be in the finals, and now he's got a pretty tough opponent there too.
Yeah, so on the bottom half, Jacob Van D of Cathedral Prep, again, last week at the West Super Region, he was a third-place finisher. So he lost to Camden Williams 7-3. So, again, that really hurts not having Camden Williams here because he beat the guy who was, in the finals and the guy who was a returning state champion last week. You got to wonder where he would finish had he been in the tournament. But Van D comes back from last week taking third to advance into his second straight state finals. I think this match with Jack Russo is going to be an absolute war. I think Van D's going to go back and watch that match with Kilcarry and Jack Russo and say, hey, I'm going to push him. I know he's going to get tired. I'm going to push him, and I'm going to score. I'm going to ride him tough from top. Van D, I feel like, is I wouldn't say the favorite, but I kind of give him the edge a little bit, having been there before. Eric, would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we probably underestimated Jack Russo a little bit, throughout the season and this tournament maybe. But, I also wonder, and I'm not saying that a crowd size would have made a difference in any of these matches, but what this arena would have been like with 8,000 people in here watching that match. I mean, that they would have been all over the officials looking for a stalling call there. And you wonder, you hope that an official isn't affected by that. But, hey, we're all humans. And if you got 8,000 people telling you it's stalling, you start thinking, well, maybe it is stalling.
Right. It kind of gets in your head a little bit. I can remember multiple years being at the Giants Center watching my Central Dolphin teammates wrestle and people complaining, he's wrestling on his knees, he's stalling. The whole stadium is essentially saying it, and the refs, they kind of give into that maybe a little bit. So yeah, you're right. I wonder if that's going to play a factor in it or not having those fans there. I kind of, Jack Russo is not a guy I feel like I looked over because last year he was in the Escape the Rock finals. He looked great, just had a really tough Northeast region to make it to the state tournament. But you kind of got to give those guys that had been there and done that before, a little bit of that push in the rankings, so to speak. But I'm not surprised to see Jack Russo here. He won a very, very tough Northeast and East Super region to get to where he's at now. So he's battle tested. There's no doubt about that. Let's go up to 120 pounds where again, I don't want to say there was any controversy here, but man, you had Mac Church come away with a 1-0 decision over Mason Leapart of Dover. This was a rematch from last weekend at the West Super Region. In that match last week at the West Super Region, it was Mac Church who got the 5-1. I'm sorry, in that match he got a 6-1 decision over Mason Leapart of Dover, who's making his third trip to the state tournament. This time around, Church needs a 1-0 decision. Greg and I talked on War Up about this. Mac Church sometimes shuts down and he'll win these 1-point matches, and it seemed like that's kind of what he was content with doing here. Dysen, did you catch that Mac Church Mason Leapart match?
I did. I saw it right at the beginning of the match. I think I didn't really catch exactly what happened, but I saw the Leapart had him on his back from some sort of feet to back position, and got called potentially dangerous, and Leapart didn't get any points for it. Kind of surprised by that, but then I was just seeing bits and pieces of it because I like I had yesterday. I have all 4 screens on the TV, so I'm kind of just looking at all of them. So then I saw kind of Church's ride out the whole third period. He put on a tough ride, kind of got the leg in, was looking for a Turk. Wasn't able to get the Turk and get any back points, but was able to be heavy on top and continue and get the ride out for the third period to win it.
Speaking of Central Dauphin teammates, I just heard from Tyson Dippery of Central Dauphin, now at Franklin Marshall coaching, on Twitter saying no one's talking about it, but Mason Leapart had Church on his back and never got any points. And like you said, Dyson, I believe it was called potentially dangerous. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
there you go, Tyson. Dysen Gould is talking about it.
Yes, Tyson Dippery. We are talking about it here on the PA Power Hour. Let's just call it that.
Well, actually, I looked down on my phone and saw his notifications, and I started talking about it.
So
come on, Dyson,
you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say you initiated it, you thought of it. Come on, man.
You look like you're an expert there, Dyson. Come on.
So that could have been the match potentially, because like you said, Mac Church puts on that hard ride in the third period. We know how tough he is on top. Mac Church, that was the difference, right? Last week he beat him 6-1. This time it was a 1-0 decision. He's into the finals. This is now going to be a rematch from the West Super Region with Carl Schindeldecker of Chambersburg. Now, Schindeldecker beat Gunnar Myers 4-0, a freshman from Wallenpaupack. He beat him 4-0. Dante Frenzy and Chad Ozias was a great match. And then Frenzy slapped on the cradle and said, "Not so fast. We're not playing around anymore. I'm going to pin you in a minute 41. Frenzy and Schindeldecker was a great match. A lot of scrambles in that. Schindeldecker was just found a way to get control in those scrambles. The high hand win type of a mentality. He was the one who was able to come out on top of those scrambles to win it 7-2. Now, Leapart majored Austin Fashauer from West Scranton 13-2. Mac Church beat Keanu Manuel 3-1. So there was a lot of tough matches here. And last week in the West Super Region, this was a very tight match between Mac Church and Carl Schindeldecker. It was a 4-3 decision. Eric, what do you think about Mac Church being in the state finals for the first time after last year? He loses in that caution call against Matt Repost. Now he's back. He's got to really open up his offense, or he's not going to get past Schindeldecker, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, obviously, I'm sure there's been a hunger there to get back to this point since that very controversial loss last year that, he ended up not getting there where we kind of all expected him to be. But, yeah, a tight rematch is probably in the cards. I mean, yesterday we were saying, well, A.J. Corrado really needs to score some more points. He can't keep winning these close matches. And what does he do? He goes out and gets a fall in overtime to win a state title. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. Mac Church, if you can go out there and get a 1-point victory, get your hand raised, that's all well and good. You'll be a state champion.
Like you said, they don't talk about the score and they don't talk about how you won. They talk about if you won or not. And A.J. Corrado, yes, he goes into overtime and Bassett takes a shot and he just pancakes him down. And hey, A.J. Corrado's a state champ. That's all you know. You don't know that he went 3-1, 2-1 tiebreaker, 3-1 sudden victory. He's a state champ. Mac Church, on the other hand, I think they're going to have more than 1 point on the board with Schindeldecker. That kid can score some points in bunches. I'm really looking forward to that one. I think they scramble both very, very well. Let's go up to 126 pounds, guys, where, again, we had a lot of tough matches early on. Tyler Kasak of Bethlehem Catholic, he beats Matt Repost 2-1. Now, interestingly enough, Kasak and Repost were both 4th and 5th in the state. Repost took 4th in the state last year. Kasak took 5th. This time around, Kasak's able to get a win 2-1. They hadn't wrestled each other last year in the state tournament. On that bottom half there, Luke Simcox from Central Mountain, the super tough freshman, beats Patrick Snoke, the Cinderella story from Northampton, 5-2 to set up a very good matchup with Kasak and Simcox. That match went to Kasak. You kind of saw his savvy veteranness as a sophomore being there. We've seen him. He works out with M2 Training Center. We saw him at True Power. We've seen him in the offseason. The kid just wrestles, man. He lives wrestling. He loves wrestling. He just always finds a way to try to get out on top. He gets a 7-2 win over Simcox. But on the bottom half, this is where kind of the wheels fell off a little bit, because Dom Findora of Downingtown West, a junior, last year was a state qualifier, this year earning his first state medal. He upsets and beats the returning state champion from last year, Ethan Bergnick from Hempfield area, 5-4. Eric, I know you got to catch up with him after the match. What was he saying that was the key difference in that match?
Just perseverance, just pushing on and, having confidence in himself and being ready to go out there and be confident that you can beat a state champion like Ethan Bergnick. And, that's exactly what Dominic Findora was able to do to go out there and get that big victory.
Yeah, and if you go back and watch that match, I mean, he just really he rode out Ethan Burnett hard. He was able to control, the center of the mat, and really, like you said, it was clear that he believed in himself in that match because he looked like the guy who was, poised and ready to win. Now, you flip the script when Carter Dybert comes out. Man, Carter Dybert looks like he's on a mission. We always said last week he had a tough match with Luke Simcox in the finals. He opens up with a 5-2 win over Nate Shippey and then majors Dom Findora 12-0. He's into the state finals for a second time in his career. He was a state champion as a sophomore last year. He was third as a junior. Dysen, I know this is a match that we've been talking about for a while, the Tyler Kasak, Carter Dybert match. These two are both ranked in the nation currently. What are you expecting here from these two guys?
I'm really excited to see this one. Like you said, Dybert looks like he's on a mission coming through this tournament so far, and Kasak's had a couple of tough matches. He's just finding ways to win. So I think we're going to see a lot of scoring and a lot of action between these two. Kasak, heavy hand fight, brawler, and Dybert kind of he'll hand fight you too, but he likes to stay from the open a little bit and work from there maybe. But I'm really excited to see these two go at it.
And Eric, I think this one's a little bit more of an underrated state finals. I feel like, maybe it won't get as much hype or talk about than it should be, but this is going to be a really good match between two high quality wrestlers, two guys that are again ranked in the nation. They both have very good wins under their belt against nationally ranked guys. Eric, what do you expect in this match, and do you think Carter Dybert, having been here before, having won a state championship, is that's going to help him, propel over Tyler Kasak?
Yeah, I mean, I would give the edge to Dybert. I don't know that that's, going to necessarily win him a state title. He's going to have to wrestle well against a guy like Tyler Kasak to get a victory. But I would say this, to me, is actually one of the highlight matches that we see in this round. Because you said they're both guys that have been around, are always out there putting up wins. And I think this is going to be a great final and one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I mean, you look at the early lightweight round finals, and that's probably one of the best ones, in my opinion, between two high-quality wrestlers. Let's go up to 132 pounds, where really this was all the WPIAL, it seemed like, because, we have two guys from the WPIAL in the state finals right now. Nathan Lucier beats Colton Stone King 4-3. We knew that was going to be a tight match. We knew that was going to be a good one. Nathan Lucier is earning his second state medal this year. He's going to Binghamton. Colton Stone King, a junior, earning his first trip and state medal. Lucier comes out with a 4-3 decision. Good win for him. Briar Priest, and right below him, he majors Kelly Kakos for Perkiomen Valley 12-2 to set up a very nice match with him and Lucier. In that match, Briar Priest gets an escape and rides Lucier out for the entire third period to get a championship or get into the championship finals. Briar Priest goes from not making the state tournament, beating Vinny Kilcarry multiple times in the season last year, not making the state tournament at 106 pounds, now bumps up to 132. He's in the state finals. I've been saying it all year. I think this guy's probably one of the most improved wrestlers as a junior. Eric, were you able to catch any of that match?
The Lucier Priest, I did not see much. I just saw the very end of it where Priest was able to hold on for the victory. But I'm sure that last year, as you said, having beaten Kilcarry and then not getting anything himself, I think that really has to be a motivating factor throughout the offseason and all that, hey, I know I can beat a guy who's a state champ. So I think that confidence level is probably there with him. And now he's going to get another guy that he's seen before and lost to before. So that may be the same thing there, where he says, hey, last year this happened to me, that, a guy who I beat wins a state title. Now it's my turn to go out there and win a state title by beating a guy that beat me before.
Yeah, actually he has 2 wins against him. Dalen Chappell does against Briar Priest. Now let's go down to the bottom half, Dyson, where this was absolutely nuts. The Matt Mayer and Jude Swisher match. We knew it was going to be tight. We knew these two, this is number 3 versus number 4 in the state. Matt Mayer has that cut above his eye, same as he did last week. And you saw the bandage. He wrapped him up about 4 different times here in that match with Jude Swisher. They were back and forth in that match. Jude Swisher ends up getting on top of a flurry position, and he gets to fall over Matt Mayer. The score at the time was 4-2 in favor of Jude Swisher at the time of the fall. Mayer had the opening takedown, goes out to a 2-1 lead going in the second period. Jude ties it with an escape in the second period. Then there's that blood time. There's at least 2 blood times that Matt Mayer has to take because of that cut above his eye. Jude Swisher gets into a kind of scramble situation, ends up getting the takedown, and then pins Matt Mayer to get to the semifinals. Dysen, what were you thinking of that match? Because I know your buddy Jude Swisher, man, he just finds ways to win. He was dead to rights by Matt Mayer a few times, and he was able to funk out of it.
Yeah, that was a crazy scramble. Jude's a great scrambler, and he was just able to keep working at that far ankle there and able to come up on top, and then working to kind of, I believe he kind of cross-faced him and then almost into like a Turk position kind of, and he was able just to adjust and get the fall with short time left. And like you said, it was a crazy match with a bunch of fun scrambles.
Yeah, there was a ton of fun scrambles. There were some scrambles that I thought, Mayer was going to come out on top of, but Swisher just kept on going far ankle, rolling through, funking, refunking, getting his head high, and all of a sudden, like you said, he kind of reached back, crossed face, and then boom, got the fall. And that was a devastating loss for Matt Mayer, who I know was poised and ready to get that state championship. Now that semifinals match, we said it: Jude Swisher, Dylan Chappell, number 1 versus number 3. Both these guys were at True Power this past October. These guys are both very highly accomplished wrestlers. Chappell being now a 3-time state finalist. He's Jude Swisher was 4th last year in the state. This one was a 2-1 win. I think it basically went exactly as expected, Eric, because Dylan Chappell just finds ways, again, kind of like we talked about with Mac Church and maybe AJ Corrado. It doesn't matter how close you keep it with Dylan Chappell. He finds ways to win. He's able to ride out Jude Swisher in the final period to get that 2-1 win to find himself in his 3rd state finals appearance.
Did he ride him out? I thought that he actually got a big takedown there, because I was surprised Swisher got out from him, and then Chappell was able to get a takedown, right? Because
he took him down. Yeah. So he took him down and then
that was the right. But that was really the big point. And when I talked with Dylan afterwards, he said I could feel him. It was almost close to a slam. Like, he picked him up and brought him down really hard. And he said, I could feel him kind of break whenever he came down. And he said, I knew that it was really hard, and it was a tough mat return. And I felt like once I did that I knew I had that match in control.
Yeah, somewhere Shane Sparks, if he's watching this, Shane Sparks, go back and watch that, because you're a big mat return guy. That's a good mat return. And you're right, and I apologize when I said he wrote him out. He got the takedown with 55 seconds left. So
okay, yeah, and then
to me, the takedown was huge, right? Because it's 1-0 Swisher in the 3rd period. So Swisher escapes to make it 1-0, because Dylan Chappell rode him out all of the second period. So Chappell rode out Swisher all of the second period. Their score is the first period. The first point on the board was in the 3rd period when Swisher escaped with 20 seconds into the 3rd period. Then that huge takedown comes, and I'm thinking, okay, it's 2-0, or it's 2-1, and Jude Swisher has 55 seconds to get out. There's a good chance he's probably going to escape and tie this match up. And Chappell just keeps on flowing. He doesn't get a stall call on him with 3 seconds left, but, that was it. Dysen, thoughts on that match? Or go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say, I was remembering now, they got in kind of a scramble position there where Swisher was actually looked like he might be able to come out. And I remember now that the Chappell had him kind of just had an ankle, but he wasn't dropped down to the ankle for a long time where he was going to get that stalling call. And finally, Jude turned and tried to kick out. And then after, 10 seconds is when he got the stalling call, because they were in that kind of position where Swisher looked like he might come out for probably 30 seconds. And then it was right at the end there that he turned and kicked, and that's when he got the stalling call. But at that point, it was kind of too little too late.
Yeah, it seemed like it was too little, too late, and you heard the coaches saying, hit him again. I'm like, well, you're probably not going to hit him again. If Vinny Kilcarry didn't get a stall call with 27 seconds left pushing the pace, I don't think you're going to get one in 3 seconds. Dysen, what were your thoughts on that Swisher and Chappell match? To me, it kind of went as expected. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was just a close, tight match. Chappell was able to pull it out with that big takedown, like Eric said, and then to be able to get the ride out there to end up winning the match. Just tough win there for Chapel and a good win.
Yeah, so what that does is sets up a third week in a row. Dylan Chapel, Briar Priest from Hempfield area going to wrestle. So they wrestled in the Southwest Regional Finals. That was a winner for Chapel, 7-5. They wrestled last week in the West Super Region Finals. That was a very tight 6-5 win for Chapel. If you go back and watch that one on Flow, it was a very close match. Briar Priest was definitely in that match. You know, you kind of feel like maybe the momentum swinging his way. But again, Chapel is notorious for finding ways to win. You know, he's been in the state finals twice before. He finds ways to keep it close, but also come out on top. I kind of expect the same thing here in the finals. He knows how to win, beating him twice before. What adjustments, Eric, does Priest need to make in order to, you know, reverse those fortunes?
It's tough with a guy like that is so hard to score on. You know, as you said, he's usually so tough on top. And you think when Swisher got an escape there, you're like, all right, well, maybe, you know, he can gut this out. But, you know, Chapel just finds a way. He's able to get that takedown, get the victory. And when I talked to him afterwards, I asked him about, you know, the 2 finals losses before. And I said, you know, what will a state title mean to you? And he said, I don't know. I haven't gotten it yet. I'll find out, you know, if I can get the win.
Yeah, I mean, he knows what losing feels like. You know, he knows what falling in the state finals twice before feels like, because it was, you know, it was so devastating to him, you know, to do it once, but then to do it twice. I highly doubt he wants to feel that feeling once again.
No.
But it again, you talk about the West domination. You know, this is just another example of Briar Priest being able to beat Lucier from Coatesville in that tough match. I think the West is really showing up here. You're really seeing the dominance of the West, especially in the 106 through 138 pound weight classes. Let's go up to 138 pounds, where honestly, probably one of the most anticipated weights of the state tournament for me was because you had so many state finalists, state medalists. You had just a ton of talent here, and it started at the top with Kyle Hauserman of Council Rock North. Last year was 4th in the state. This year ranked number 1 in the state, undefeated, 18-0 coming into this match as a senior. He's headed to Penn. He wrestles a sophomore from Chartiers Valley, Dylan Evans, who we saw all throughout the year. He was 4th last week in the West Super Region. Last year at the state tournament as a freshman, he was 8th in the state. Dylan Evans wins a 3-1 sudden victory match against Kyle Hauserman. Huge takedown that he had in sudden victory, Eric. You know, what were you talked to Evans afterwards? You know, what was his feelings like after getting that huge win over Hauserman?
Obviously, you know, great excitement. But he said, hey, I just had to keep pushing and attacking and getting my shots off. He said, you know, that's what I need to do. And he's able to do that now. Of course, you know, at this weight class that, you know, you can be the hero in the quarterfinals, but then face another tough opponent right away in the semifinals.
Yeah, and that's essentially what happened to him, because he beats Kyle Hauserman in a very tight 3-1 match, but then draws Cole Hammett, who he beat. Like, so think about this. These guys have wrestled, I believe this is the 4th time they've wrestled. I'm going to have to double check that. But they wrestled in the, I'm going to pull it up right now because I don't want to get this wrong. They wrestled in the sectional tournament finals. So, I'm sorry, the subsectional finals. That was in the 4A round robin. Evans beats him 9-4. Okay, so 9-4 win for Evans. Then Hammett beats him in the Section 4 championship finals 3-2 a week later. So that was 3 days later. February 17th, Evans wins 9-4. On February 20th, Hammett wins 3-2. Now they find themselves in the state semifinals against each other, and this time Cole Hammett gets a 5-1 win. So, you know, this just shows how deep the WPIAL is when you have 2 guys in the semifinals that wrestled in their subsection back in February 17th. You know, that just really shows you how deep it is. Cole Hammett is into the state finals, 5-1. On the bottom half, Chandler Ho of DuBois, who's earning his 2nd state medal. He beats Andrew Harmon of Becca 7-0. I thought he looked really good in that match. And then Finn Solomon kind of had, I'm not saying he had his hands full, but it was a little bit closer match than I thought with Trent Kocherberger from Kennett, who's a senior. Finn Solomon beats him 3-1 to set up that Chandler Ho-Finn Solomon match, which he ends up winning 6-0. Eric, were you able to catch any of Finn Solomon or Chandler Ho down there? Because
No, unfortunately I wasn't. I was running around doing interviews and didn't get to see any of that one. But, you know, Solomon, obviously tough to score on. Was it 3-1 in the first one? I had it written down as 3-0. I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
if
3-0. 3-0. Yeah, it was.
Okay,
It was.
so two shutouts. So if you're not giving up any points, it's going to be hard to lose.
That's very true. And Dyson Chandler Ho, I thought looked really good against Andrew Harmon from Becca. Beats him 7-0. I thought, okay, this Finn Solomon and Chandler Ho match, could potentially be a good one here. In fact, they wrestled. They did not wrestle, I'm sorry, last week at the West Super Region. Chandler Ho lost to Cole Hammett 4-3, but Chandler Ho just had a great tournament out there. Beats Josh Miller to get into the third and fourth place match, and then beats Dylan Evans 6-3 to take third there. So, Dyson, what were your thoughts on Finn Solomon? And, for a guy who was a state finalist as a freshman, finishes as a regional qualifier last year after losing to Curtis Phipps and Zach Wright of Hampton, he's back in the state finals. What's he got to do to get this job done, Dyson?
I think he's just gotta keep his pace and keep a high pace and get to his offense. I'm really excited for this Hammett Solomon match. Like, it's kind of like that Evans Hammett. We've seen them a couple times. I think Finn if he's able to keep his attacks going and stay on him, I think he can come out with this win here. But I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, this is actually the rubber match for them. So this year they've wrestled twice before. Hammett beats Finn Solomon in the West or Southwest Regional Championship Finals. Hammett wins 4-2. The next week in the West Super Region, and I know you guys weren't there, but man, this was a just absolute poured on by Finn Solomon. He beat him 12-1 major decision in the West Super Regional Finals last week. That's got to be playing into both their heads, right? Not only are you Cole Hammett, you beat him the week prior, then get majored the week after. How do you come back from that, Eric? Because that's that goes from a major decision to now, hey, I'm on the line with the state championship against him.
Well, I think you got to be like the closer in baseball. You got to have a really short memory. The closer goes out and blows a lead on Tuesday. He can't be thinking about that when he gets brought in again on Wednesday. And that's the same thing here. You can't worry about that match last week. There's nothing that you can do to change that. That match is over, done with. You've got tonight ahead of you. You go out there and start fresh. It's 0-0. That 12-1 doesn't carry over. There's no aggregate in this. It's 0-0. Go out there, put your foot on the line, and get some points to start with.
Yeah, and it seems like the wrestlers that do the best are the ones who have that short memory and forget about a match 3 days ago, just like Cole Hammett and Dylan Evans. You wrestle on the 17th, you turn around and flip the script on the 20th. You got to have a short memory. You got to trust your preparation, trust your training and that environment. So, yeah, I'm excited for this one. Even though it was a 12-1 major last week, I have a feeling it's probably going to be a little tighter this time around. I just have a feeling. And, both these guys are very highly accomplished wrestlers. So Finn Solomon, again, back in the state finals. That's going to do it for 106 through 138. Now, coming up at 12:30, we have, so that is what? About 45 minutes, we have the quarterfinals for the 145 through 285 pound weight classes. That's followed by the championship semifinals at roughly 2 o'clock. I believe they're probably going to be on schedule for that. Then we are going to come back and do the same thing after the 145 through 285 pound quarterfinals and semifinals to recap that. We still got a lot of good wrestling, Dyson. Yesterday, you fell asleep during the Dubway 145 through 285. You had to slap yourself in the face, punch yourself in the face like Trent Hidley, who you have on the wall there behind you. Dyson, do you need coffee? Do you need a 5-hour energy? What do you need to stay awake and stay ready to stay awake during these 145 through 285 pound weight classes?
I did not have my coffee actually this morning. I might need to go get a cup of coffee. But
you're 14.
Actually, well, wait. So speaking of Trent Hidley, I think my dad just went and picked me up a hoagie. So.
Wow. So you're gonna have a hoagie and coffee to get you ready
and raise the roof and watch some wrestling.
Okay, man, you are something, Dyson. Boy, oh boy. Here I am dealing with my 2-week-old son pooping and crying all over me, and here you are eating hoagies and drinking coffee at age 14. Is this what I have to look forward to in 14 years, Dyson?
I'm not 14.
Whatever, 15. I'm sorry, you're 15. I know.
This.
You're getting older on us.
You sound like Rob when he calls me 12.
My wife was listening to us My wife was listening to us yesterday, and she heard your voice, and she said, "Oh my God, is that Dyson?" I'm like, "Yep." And she had this sad face, like, "Oh my gosh, Dyson's not a kid anymore," So, Even my wife is
Dyson,
sad.
I gotta say, Dyson, you gotta change your voicemail recording on there because you sound
Oh,
like you're 9. It's like, hi, this is Dyson. I can't come to the phone right now.
What a savage. Oh my gosh. Dyson, you gonna take that from him?
oh my gosh. I remember that. I haven't. No one's said that anything about that in a long time. But yeah,
I called you like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, when we were having trouble with War Up on the Whippy, I called you and I got your voicemail. I'm like, oh my God, Dyson, change the voicemail.
It's like walking back in a time machine and you see and you're like, oh, I remember little Dyson, 80-pound Dyson with his glasses, and I really liked you back then, Dyson. Now you're all like, growing up on me. You're becoming more like Eric and I. I don't like it. You gotta. I liked when you were an excited young little pup. So, stay young at heart. All right, Dyson.
I will.
All right. Well, we will be back after the 145, 285-pound semifinals again, roughly 3 o'clock. When the semifinals start at 2, we probably will be back on around 3 o'clock. Eric, anything to add before we jump off here? You're at the Giant Center. You see the guys warming up there.
Man, how does this round live up to the last one? I mean, that last round was so crazy. Like, I thought, okay, I'll be able to ease into the quarterfinals here.
Nope.
And then, boom, state champs going down. I got to run and get interviews. Like, I was like, man, that first round was insane. So, I don't know.
AAA.
Can 140 live up to, 145, 285 live up to it? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out shortly here, and I can't wait to see what happens here. I'm sure we're going to, have a lot to talk about here around 3 o'clock. So make sure you stay tuned. Eric Knopsnyder's down on the floor of Hershey. They can't keep us out. He is down there. He's getting interviews. He's getting all kinds of, firsthand contact, but 6 feet apart, of course. He's getting all the nooks and crannies down at the Giant Center. So we are relying on him. We appreciate you, Eric. Dyson, we're sitting at home, with our feet up. Not really,
I got my pajama pants on.
You got your pajama pants on. I got puke on my shirt for my son. It's great. We're gonna be going good here. So, Eric and Dyson, we'll talk to you very shortly here. Stay tuned for the semifinal recap coming up on the PA Power Hour. Catch it on Rockfin and the socials, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.